I never thought I'd be one of those guys. The ones who tell their messy, drama-filled life stories on Reddit. But here I am, spilling my guts because, honestly, I just need to get this out. Maybe I just want to know that I'm not insane, that someone else out there has gone through this level of bullshit. So yeah, buckle up because this is about to get wild. My wife, Kate, and I had been married for 5 years. On the outside, everything probably seemed perfect. We had a nice apartment in the heart of the city, solid jobs, and a decent social life. I'm in marketing, the whole 9 yards, deadlines, client meetings, office politics. Kate, on the other hand, is in the fashion industry, managing branding or whatever. It sounds fancier than it is, trust me. But lately, things between us had felt off. I first started getting this gnawing feeling in my gut at a party thrown by our friends. They just had a baby, so it was one of those let's celebrate how much our lives have changed gatherings. I was doing my usual routine, making small talk with people I barely knew when I noticed Kate across the room. She was chatting it up with this younger guy named Todd, who had recently started working at her company. This dude was all teeth and charm, leaning into her personal space, saying something that made her laugh, really laugh. You know, that laugh she used to give me when we first started dating. I try to brush it off. I'm not the jealous type. At least I didn't think I was. But there was something about the way she was looking at him that got under my skin. It wasn't just friendly, it was too friendly. She had that glow, that animated spark in her eyes. And let me tell you, I hadn't seen that from her in a long time, especially not directed at me. On the way home, I brought it up. I didn't want to come off as insecure, but screw it, I had to know what the hell that was all about. Kate, seriously, what was up with you and that guy Todd back there? You two seem close, I said, trying to sound casual even though I was gripping the steering wheel a little too tight. She rolled her eyes, which is basically her default response whenever I try to have a real conversation with her these days. Oh, come on, Austin, she sighed. He's just a colleague. We were just talking about work. Why are you getting so paranoid all of a sudden? Paranoid? I shot back. I'm not paranoid. I just know what I saw, and it looked like you were really enjoying his company. Kate turned to look out the window. Her jaw clenched. You're overthinking it. It was harmless fun. Honestly, Austin, maybe that's the problem. We don't have enough fun anymore. That's when she dropped the bombshell. She didn't just suggest date nights or vacations to spice things up. Nope, that would have been too sane. She went straight to suggesting that we should open up our marriage. Just like that, no warning. She said it so casually, like she was suggesting we try a new restaurant for dinner. An open relationship? I asked, my voice cracking like a teenager's. Are you out of your fucking mind? She didn't even flinch. I'm just saying, maybe it's what we need. To explore, to feel something again. We're in a rut. Austin, don't you feel it? We're just coasting. I was stunned. This was the same woman who used to go on about how committed she was to me, how she believed in monogamy. And now, she's pitching the idea of screwing other people like it's some kind of self-help exercise. I won't lie. The thought of saying yes just to keep her happy crossed my mind. I mean, I'd do just about anything to save what we had, or at least what I thought we had. But in that moment, my gut was screaming that this was wrong, that something deeper was going on with her. Still, I was weak, desperate to hold on to what was left of us, so I told her, fine, let's give it a shot. The moment I said it, I felt this wave of nausea. I wanted to take it back, but the look on her face, God, she actually looked relieved. It made me sick. But there it was. I'd agreed. And now I was stuck in this nightmare of my own making. The next day, though, that pit in my stomach grew. I tried to convince myself that we could handle it, that we were mature enough to figure this out. So, I did what any self-respecting man would do. I called up my buddy Liam. He's one of those old-school, no-bullshit types who always says exactly what he's thinking. We met up at this dive bar we used to go to back in the day. The place was still the same. Cheap beer, crappy lighting, and sticky floors. Liam listened as I told him the whole story, shaking his head like I'd told him I was planning to jump off a bridge. Dude, he said, taking a swig of his beer. You're fucking insane if you think this open relationship bullshit is gonna fix anything. It's just gonna give her permission to cheat on you without calling it cheating. I wanted to argue, to tell him he was wrong, but deep down, I knew he was right. Kate was already halfway out the door, and I was too blind to see it. But I couldn't admit that, not yet. So, I just shrugged and tried to play it off. Look, I don't know, man. Maybe this is what we need. Maybe it'll help us figure out what we actually want. Liam just gave me that look like I was the biggest idiot he'd ever met. And honestly, maybe I was, because I was lying to myself. I wasn't okay with any of it. I hated the idea of Kate being with someone else, even if I had technically agreed to it. That night, after I got home, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, trying to convince myself that it was going to be okay, that this wasn't just Kate's excuse to fuck around while pretending to stay married to me. But there was this nagging voice in my head telling me that something was seriously off. And that's where it all started to spiral. The open relationship was supposed to save us, but instead, it pushed us into a darkness I never saw coming. I'll be honest, when Kate first suggested the whole open relationship idea, I was already halfway to checking out mentally. But it wasn't until a few days later that things really started falling apart. This is where everything I thought I knew about her and us went to hell. It was a random Tuesday morning. I just finished making coffee, and I was getting ready to head out when I noticed Kate had left her phone on the kitchen counter. Usually, she's glued to that thing like it's her lifeline, so seeing it just sitting there was rare. I don't even know what possessed me to look. I mean, sure, curiosity was there, but also that gnawing feeling that something wasn't right. I didn't go in deep, just a quick glance at the notifications. But that was enough. Right on the lock screen was a text that stopped me cold. Can't wait for our date tonight. See you soon. My heart just fucking dropped. Date? I stared at that screen, trying to convince myself that maybe it was some kind of work thing, some inside joke, or, hell, I don't even know what I was trying to tell myself. But deep down, I knew. This wasn't innocent. This wasn't exploring our open relationship, or whatever bullshit she fed me. This was her lining up a damn date with another guy behind my back. I could have thrown her phone against the wall right then and there, but I needed to stay calm. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. Instead, I took a screenshot, sent it to my own phone, and then deleted the evidence. Yeah, I know, sneaky. But at that point, I needed some kind of proof because Kate would just lie through her teeth if I brought it up without hard evidence. That night, after stewing in my own thoughts all day, I tried to act normal. But, man, it was eating me alive. I couldn't focus on work, couldn't think straight. My mind kept flashing back to that stupid text. The way it was written so casually, like this was just another Tuesday in her calendar. It made me feel like a fucking idiot for ever agreeing to that open relationship nonsense. I needed answers, so I did the only thing I could think of. I played detective. When Kate was in the shower that night, I grabbed her phone again. This time, I went through her texts, scrolled up through that chat with this stranger. The guy's name was Ryan, and from the looks of it, he was some hotshot entrepreneur who had just moved to the city. Smooth, good-looking, the type who probably had women lining up for him. Their messages weren't just flirty. They were downright raunchy. Things like, can't wait to feel your lips on me again, and last night was unforgettable. Yeah, so much for our agreement. My wife was getting her thrills on the side, and here I was, playing the supportive husband, thinking we were trying to save our marriage. I wanted to confront her right there, but the anger was too fresh. I knew I'd blow up, and that would just give her an excuse to turn it around on me. So, I decided to wait, to plan, to figure out my next move. But I couldn't just sit on it either. I met up with Liam again that weekend, downing whiskey shots like they were water. When I told him what I'd found, he just shook his head. Man, you should have never agreed to that open relationship bullshit, he said, slamming his glass down on the bar. It's just a hall pass for her to fuck around while you sit at home like a damn chump. I know, I muttered, staring into my drink. I don't know, man. I thought maybe it would fix things. But she's not even trying. She's just using it as an excuse to fuck some random guy. Then what the hell are you still doing here? He asked, his eyes narrowing. Get out, Austin. End it before she wrecks you any more than she already has. But I wasn't ready to walk away yet. Not without some kind of closure or revenge or something. I needed to confront her, but I had to be smart about it. A few days later, Kate started planning this big birthday party for herself. She was excited, almost giddy, and she kept mentioning that Todd, the guy from her office, would be there. That made me nervous as hell, because I couldn't shake the feeling that Todd and Ryan were just two sides of the same coin. But I kept my mouth shut, waiting for her to slip up. It was during one of our painfully awkward dinners that I tried to test the waters. I casually brought up the open relationship thing, pretending like I was genuinely interested in how she was finding it. She froze for a split second, just a flash of guilt in her eyes, but quickly recovered, acting all nonchalant. "Oh, it's been interesting," she said, taking a sip of her wine. "But honestly, I haven't really explored much. I mean, I've been so busy with work." "Yeah, right. Busy getting her back blown out by some entrepreneur, more like it. But I played along, nodding like I bought her bullshit." "That's good to hear," I said, forcing a smile. "I've been taking it slow, too." Her eyes flicked up to mine, trying to read me, trying to see if I was hiding anything. And for a moment, I thought maybe she knew. But then she just shrugged it off, going back to her pasta. As the party drew closer, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was up. I overheard her on the phone one night, whispering in the hallway. She thought I was asleep, but I wasn't. "Yeah, I can't wait either. No, it'll be perfect timing," she said, her voice low and eager. That's when it clicked. This birthday party wasn't just a party. It was a fucking cover for her to meet up with Ryan. So I did some digging. Turns out, she had scheduled her date with him on the same night as the party. I guess she thought I'd be too busy mingling with her friends to notice she'd disappeared for a couple of hours. But she didn't know that I was already one step ahead. I wasn't just going to sit there and let her play me for a fool. This time I was going to do something about it. No more pretending, no more playing along. It was time to take matters into my own hands. I just needed to figure out how to catch her in the act without letting her slip away with more lies. After I found out about her date, I couldn't sit still. I was losing my mind, imagining Kate with this Ryan guy. I couldn't just let it slide, not without doing something about it. If she thought she could sneak around behind my back while pretending our open relationship was just some grand experiment to save our marriage, then she had another thing coming. I spent hours combing through her messages, tracking down where they were planning to meet. The dude had chosen this upscale bar in the trendy part of the city, one of those places where young professionals gather to sip overpriced cocktails and pretend they're the next big thing. I figured that's where I'd confront him, where I'd look him dead in the eyes and show him that he wasn't just dealing with some clueless husband. When I got there, the place was buzzing, filled with people dressed to impress. I was a mess, sweat dripping down my back, my fists clenched so hard they ached. And then I saw him, Ryan or Kevin, whatever the hell his name was, leaning against the bar, scrolling through his phone, looking all smug and relaxed. That sight alone almost sent me over the edge. I walked straight up to him, no hesitation. "Hey, you Kevin?" I asked, my voice dripping with barely contained rage. He looked up, confusion flickering across his face before he figured out who I was. Yeah. Do I know you?" I leaned in close enough for him to feel my breath on his face. "Yeah, you know exactly who I am. You're about to meet my wife, Kate. Ring any bells?" His eyes widened just a bit, like he'd been caught red-handed, but he still thought he could talk his way out of it. "Look, man, it's not what you think," he started, but I cut him off. "I don't give a damn what you think it is," I growled. "I'm telling you, you stay away from her. I find out you even so much as text her again, I'll make your life a living hell." "Got it?" To his credit, he didn't back down immediately. There was this flash of defiance in his eyes, like he thought I was just blowing smoke. But when he saw that I wasn't flinching, he raised his hands in mock surrender. All right, man. I hear you," he said, but there was this slight smirk on his face that made my blood boil even more. I left the bar feeling like I'd accomplished something. But let's be real, I knew it was only a temporary fix. Kate was the real problem, not this guy. He was just a symptom of whatever the hell had gone wrong between us. But I needed a distraction, something to take my mind off the fact that my marriage was crumbling. So I did what any desperate man would do. I turned to a dating app. I swiped aimlessly for a while, not really expecting much, until I matched with this girl named Miranda. She was hot, confident, and, most importantly, she was not Kate. The conversations flowed easily, flirty banter back and forth, and before I knew it, I was inviting her over to my place that same night. I wasn't thinking clearly. I was just reacting, letting my anger and frustration drive me. When Miranda showed up, it was like a breath of fresh air. She had this carefree energy, and she didn't come with all the baggage and lies that Kate carried around like a badge of honor. We started talking, sharing drinks, and before long, things got heated. It wasn't just about sex. though God knows I needed that release. It was about feeling wanted, feeling like someone actually gave a damn about me. We moved to the bedroom, our clothes coming off in a frenzy. I wasn't thinking about Kate, about the mess waiting for me once this moment was over. It was just Miranda and me, and for once I felt free. But deep down, I knew it was just a temporary escape, a band-aid over a bullet wound. Meanwhile, Kate was out on her little date with Kevin. I half expected her to stay out all night, but to my surprise, she came back earlier than I thought. I was in bed with Miranda when I heard the door open. For a second, I panicked, but then something in me just snapped. Why should I care? She was the one who pushed for this open bullshit. She was the one sneaking around with her lover. Kate walked into the bedroom, expecting to find me asleep, I guess. Instead, she found me in bed with Miranda, both of us barely covered by the sheets. Her eyes went wide, her face turning red with shock and then anger. "What the fuck, Austin?" she screamed, her voice shaking. "What the hell is this?" I sat up, not even bothering to cover myself. "Oh, so now you're the one who's mad?" "That's rich, Kate," I spat back. "You wanted an open relationship, remember? Or is it only okay when you're the one fucking around?" Her face twisted into this furious snarl, like she was about to throw something at me. "I never agreed to you bringing someone into our bed," she shouted. "Oh, but it's perfectly fine for you to go out and screw some asshole behind my back, huh? Is that it?" I shot back, the anger I'd been bottling up for weeks finally exploding. "I saw your messages, Kate. I know about Ryan, or Kevin, or whatever the hell his name is." She froze, the color draining from her face. You went through my phone?" she stuttered, trying to turn the tables. "But I wasn't having any of it." "Yeah, I did," I said, stepping out of bed and throwing on my jeans. "And you know what? I don't regret it, because it showed me exactly what kind of person you really are." The argument escalated from there, with both of us screaming things we could never take back. All the resentment, the hurt, the betrayal, it all came pouring out in a flood. She called me insecure, said I was suffocating her. I called her a selfish, lying bitch who couldn't keep her legs closed. It was ugly, raw, and it hurt like hell. In the end, we both knew it was over. The shouting died down, leaving this heavy silence hanging between us. She just stood there, tears in her eyes, looking like she was about to collapse. I think I should leave," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Yeah, maybe you should," I replied coldly, my heart feeling like it was being ripped out of my chest. She packed a bag, grabbed her keys, and walked out without looking back. After she left, Miranda got dressed and slipped out too, muttering some excuse about not wanting to get involved in my mess. I couldn't blame her. Hell, I didn't even know what I was doing anymore. In the days that followed, I tried to make sense of it all. Kate and I exchanged a few cold, business-like texts about dividing up our stuff. She told her friends that we had tried the open relationship thing, and it just didn't work out. I told mine that I was done playing nice. Liam, ever the blunt one, told me to take this as a sign and move on with my life. But here's the thing, I still don't know how to let go. Part of me wants to hate her, to burn every bridge and never speak to her again. But another part, well, it still remembers the good times. The times when we weren't tearing each other apart. And that's what makes this whole thing so fucked up. Because even after everything, I'm still not sure who I'm really mad at. Her, for betraying me, or myself, for letting it get this far. After Kate stormed out that night, taking whatever was left of our marriage with her, I didn't know what the hell to do with myself. It felt like I was standing in the ruins of my life, staring at the ashes, wondering how I'd managed to fuck everything up so badly. For the first few days, I just drifted. I went to work, I came home, I drank more than I should have. Rinse and repeat. But after a week of that shit, I realized I couldn't keep wallowing in it. I needed to get my shit together, or at least pretend to. So, I did what any lost soul in a crisis would do. I buried myself in work. Early mornings, late nights, anything to keep my mind from spiraling back to the chaos Kate had left behind. I work at a marketing agency, and suddenly, my colleagues noticed I was more focused than ever. Truth was, I just needed to be distracted. Ava, one of my coworkers who's always had a soft spot for me, started offering to help out more. She'd linger after meetings, ask if I needed anything. Honestly, I could see what she was doing, trying to be there for me without making it too obvious. And I appreciated it. At least someone gave a damn. Ava's the kind of person who listens without judging, which right now was more than I deserved. She didn't pry, but she knew something had gone down. "Hey, if you ever need to talk or grab a drink, I'm around," she said one afternoon, her voice soft, almost hesitant. "Yeah, I might take you up on that," I replied, forcing a smile. But I didn't. Not yet. I wasn't ready to drag someone else into the mess that was my life. Instead, I decided to reach out to someone who knew me before all this bullshit started. My old college buddy, Mark. We hadn't talked in years, but after scrolling through my contacts one night, drunk and desperate for a connection, I sent him a text. To my surprise, he responded right away. "Hey man, let's catch up. How about a hiking trip this weekend? Get some fresh air, clear your head," he suggested. A hiking trip was the last thing I felt like doing, but at that point I figured maybe it was what I needed. So, I threw some gear into a bag and met up with Mark that Saturday morning. The hike was grueling, but honestly it was exactly what I needed. Being out there, surrounded by nothing but trees and open sky, it was like I could finally breathe again. At some point, as we were taking a break near this lookout point, Mark turned to me and said, "All right, man, spill it. You've been walking around like you've got the weight of the world on your shoulders." And I did. I told him everything. About Kate, about her bullshit open relationship proposal, about finding her messages with Ryan. The whole sordid tale. I was surprised at how easy it was to just let it all out, no holding back. Mark just listened, nodding every so often, letting me vent. "Look, I know it hurts like hell right now, but you did the right thing," he said when I finally stopped talking. "Sometimes people just change. They lose themselves, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. But you've got to figure out what's next for you, man." It was good advice. Hell, it was probably the best advice I'd gotten in years. And for the first time since Kate dropped her open relationship bombshell, I felt a tiny sliver of clarity. Meanwhile, I heard through the grapevine that Kate had moved in with one of her friends, Jenna. Jenna's one of those people who pretends to be all supportive while secretly judging the shit out of everyone. So yeah, I'm sure Kate was getting an earful over there. From what I've heard, Kate's been struggling. Jenna told a mutual friend that Kate's been crying on her couch, drinking too much wine, and trying to figure out how she managed to fuck everything up so badly. Honestly, part of me wants to feel sorry for her, but mostly I'm just tired. She made her bed, now she can lie in it. But here's the kicker. As much as I was trying to move on, life threw me a curveball. Back at work, my boss came up to me with this huge project, a major product launch for one of our biggest clients. They wanted me to lead it, said it was a make-or-break deal for the agency. I threw myself into it like a man possessed. Long nights, weekends, whatever it took. And it felt good, like I was finally finding myself again. My team started to notice. Ava especially. She'd swing by my desk, offering to help out, bringing me coffee, just being there. Then one night, after a long day at the office, I decided to stop by this bar near work to unwind. I was nursing my second beer when I looked up and saw Miranda, the girl I'd invited over during that whole disaster with Kate. She spotted me and came over, smiling like she hadn't seen me in years. "Hey, stranger," she teased, sliding onto the stool next to mine. "You've been hiding from me?" "Yeah, something like that," I admitted. I didn't have the energy to explain everything, and frankly, I didn't want to. But there was something comforting about her presence. Maybe it was just the fact that she didn't come with all the baggage Kate did. We ended up talking for hours, catching up on everything and nothing. She told me about her job, her plans to start her own business, and I told her about the campaign I was working on. I was surprised by how easy it was, how natural it felt. At some point, after a few too many drinks, she leaned in closer, her hand resting on my arm. "You know, Austin," she said, her voice low and soft. "I'm really glad we ran into each other again." I could see where this was going. And yeah, I was tempted. Hell, more than tempted. But I was also cautious. I wasn't looking for another emotional train wreck. So, instead of taking her home that night, I told her we should take things slow, maybe meet up again later. She seemed to respect that, giving me a playful wink as she left. So now here I am, caught between the wreckage of my past and whatever this new thing with Miranda could be. Kate's still lurking somewhere in the back of my mind, but I'm starting to see a way forward. I'm not saying I'm healed, Not by a long shot. But maybe, just maybe, I'm ready to start picking up the pieces and figuring out what comes next. Because if there's one thing I've learned through all this bullshit, it's that life doesn't stop just because you've been gutted. You've got to keep moving, even if every step feels like you're walking on broken glass. And who knows? Maybe this time, I'll actually figure out what the hell I'm doing. It had been a few weeks since Kate stormed out of our apartment, and honestly, I thought I was starting to get my shit together. The new work routine, reconnecting with old friends, and spending time with Miranda, all of it helped me keep my mind off the wreckage of my marriage. But life's a cruel bastard, and just when I thought I was moving on, Kate slid back into my life like a shadow I couldn't shake off. It happened on a Wednesday evening. I was just finishing up a late meeting when I got a text from her. My phone buzzed, and there was a message from Kate. My heart skipped a beat. "Hey, can we talk? I think we need to clear the air." I stared at the screen for what felt like an eternity, my thumb hovering over the reply button. Part of me wanted to tell her to go to hell, that she had already done enough damage. But there was another part, a weaker, dumber part that still needed answers. So, against my better judgment, I typed back, "Yeah, okay. When and where?" We agreed to meet at this little cafe we used to go to when we first started dating. The place was filled with memories, good ones mostly. I showed up a bit early, my nerves eating away at me. The air smelled like fresh coffee and cinnamon, but it only made the knot in my stomach tighten. When Kate walked in, it was like a punch to the gut. She looked different, tired, worn out, like she'd been battling her own demons. And for a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "Hey," she said, sitting down across from me. "Thanks for agreeing to meet." I nodded, not trusting myself to say anything yet. I wasn't here for small talk. I needed to know what the hell she wanted. She took a deep breath, her hands fiddling with the coffee cup in front of her. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she started, her voice soft. "I know I screwed up. I just needed some space to figure things out, and honestly, I didn't expect things to get so out of hand." I couldn't help it. I laughed. A harsh, bitter laugh. "Space? That's what you call fucking some guy behind my back?" Jesus, Kate. Her eyes filled with tears, but I wasn't about to let that soften me. "Not this time." I know," she stammered. I was confused, okay? I felt like our marriage was suffocating me. I thought maybe an open relationship would, I don't know, help me find myself again. Find yourself? By spreading your legs for Ryan? Or Kevin? Or whatever the hell his name is. That's your idea of self-discovery. I shot back, my voice low but seething with anger. Her face crumpled, and for a moment, I almost regretted saying it. Almost. But then she surprised me. She didn't get defensive or try to spin it around on me. Instead, she looked down, her voice barely a whisper. "I know it was wrong, Austin. I don't expect you to forgive me. But I just needed to explain. I was scared. I thought I'd lost you, that we were just going through the motions. And I panicked. I wanted to hate her, but the way she looked at me like she was genuinely remorseful, it chipped away at my resolve. We sat there for what felt like hours, picking apart the corpse of our relationship. I told her about the pain, about how betrayed I felt reading those texts, about how she shattered everything we'd built. And for once, she actually listened. Somehow, amidst all the anger and tears, there was a strange sense of relief. It was like we were tearing down the walls we'd built up over the years, finally seeing each other for who we really were. It wasn't pretty, but it was real. By the time we finished, we were both emotionally drained. And then she hit me with it. "I don't know if we can fix this," she said softly, looking into her cup. "But maybe we could try. Take it slow, rebuild the trust. I'm not asking for everything back right away. Just a chance." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to just get up and walk away, leave her there with her regrets. But another part of me, the part that remembered the good times, the laughter, the love we once had, couldn't quite let go. "Maybe," I said finally, my voice barely more than a whisper. "But I don't know if I can ever trust you again, Kate. And without trust, what's the point?" She nodded, wiping away a stray tear. "I understand. But maybe we can just be friends for now. See where that leads." I didn't answer her. I just stood up, tossed some cash on the table, and walked out. I needed air. I needed to think. The idea of getting back with Kate, of trying to rebuild what we'd lost, it terrified me. But at the same time, it was the first time in months I'd felt a spark of hope. That night, I called Mark. He listened as I spilled everything, all the confusion, the anger, the tiny flicker of hope. "Look, man," he said, "you don't have to decide right now. Just take it slow. Feel it out. But don't let her fuck you over again." It was good advice, but easier said than done. Especially when I had Miranda waiting in the wings, ready to fill the void Kate left behind. I kept seeing Miranda, and honestly, it was a welcome distraction. She was fun, lighthearted, and she didn't come with all the emotional baggage Kate did. We'd go out, grab drinks, hit up concerts, and for a while I almost forgot about the mess my life had become. But every time I laughed with her, every time we ended up back at her place, there was this nagging guilt in the back of my mind. Like I was cheating on Kate, even though we weren't together anymore. It was fucked up. The thing is, Miranda was starting to get serious, dropping hints about wanting something more. And while I enjoyed being around her, I wasn't sure if I was ready for another relationship. Especially not with the ghost of Kate still haunting every corner of my mind. One night, after another late evening at the office, I found myself at a bar with Miranda again. We were talking, laughing, and then she leaned in and kissed me. It was the kind of kiss that makes you forget where you are, who you are, what you're running from. And for a moment, I let myself get lost in it. But then, as we pulled apart, all I could think about was Kate. About the conversation we had at that cafe. About the possibility of trying to rebuild what we once had. Miranda noticed my hesitation and pulled back, her eyes searching mine. "What's wrong?" she asked, her voice soft, almost hurt. I sighed, running a hand through my hair. I don't know if I can do this right now. There's still a lot of shit I need to figure out." She looked at me, her expression a mix of understanding and disappointment. "Austin, I really like you. But if you're still hung up on your ex, maybe you're not ready for this." She was right, of course, but hearing it out loud still stung. I watched her walk away, and for the first time in a long while, I was truly alone. No Kate, no Miranda, just me, a man standing at a crossroads, not sure which path to take. I wish I could tell you I knew what I was doing, that I had it all figured out. But the truth is, I'm just a guy trying to make sense of the mess he made of his life. And whether it's Kate, Miranda, or just learning to be okay with myself again, I don't know where I'm headed. But maybe that's okay. The product launch was looming, and for once, my life seemed to have some direction. I threw everything I had into that campaign, late nights, weekends, all the focus I could muster. After everything I'd been through, I needed this one more than I cared to admit. It wasn't just about impressing my bosses or getting a fat bonus. It was about proving to myself that I could still build something that didn't fall apart. And damn, it paid off. The launch was a massive success. Clients were happy, my team was pumped, and I could practically see the pride in my boss's eyes as we wrapped up the event. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was on solid ground again. Standing there, in the middle of all the congratulations, handshakes, and back slaps, I actually felt proud of myself. Naturally, I invited Miranda to the launch party. She'd been a breath of fresh air, pulling me out of my own head and helping me see that maybe, just maybe, there was life after Kate. We'd been seeing more of each other, and things were getting serious, though I was still treading carefully. As much as I was into her, I couldn't ignore the nagging voice in my head that still whispered Kate's name. Miranda showed up looking absolutely stunning, and when she walked in, heads turned. I was proud to have her by my side, and for once, I allowed myself to enjoy the moment. We mingled with my co-workers, her laughter mixing with the clinking of glasses and the hum of conversations. Everything felt right until I saw Kate walk through the door. I hadn't expected her to show up. Hell, I hadn't even told her about the launch. But there she was, standing in the entrance, looking as lost as I felt the moment I saw her. For a second, I couldn't move, couldn't speak. My heart was doing this weird, painful dance in my chest. I watched as her eyes scanned the room and then landed on me and Miranda. Kate's expression flickered. Shock, hurt, maybe even jealousy. It was hard to tell, but she pulled herself together and approached us with that cool, composed air she'd always had. "Austin," she said, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I wanted to congratulate you. I heard about the launch, and I'm really proud of you. Thanks, Kate, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. This is Miranda, by the way. Miranda smiled and extended her hand, and to her credit, Kate took it graciously. But the tension between the three of us was thick enough to cut with a knife. I could feel Miranda stiffening beside me, her grip on my arm tightening. After a few strained minutes of polite conversation, Miranda excused herself to get another drink, leaving me alone with Kate. We stood there in awkward silence for a moment, surrounded by people laughing and celebrating, but somehow feeling like we were the only two people in the room. Look, I didn't mean to intrude, Kate said, her voice barely audible over the music. I don't know. I wanted to see how you were doing. I'm doing all right, I said, trying to sound casual, but the bitterness seeped through. Better than I was, at least. Kate nodded, her eyes dropping to the floor. I'm glad, she whispered. I've been working on myself. Therapy, you know? Trying to figure out why I made all those stupid decisions. That's good, Kate. I mean it, I replied, and for the first time, I meant it. Maybe it was seeing her like this, vulnerable, broken, but trying to rebuild, that softened me. Or maybe I was just tired of carrying around so much anger. She looked up, and there was this raw honesty in her eyes. I'm really sorry, Austin, for everything. I thought I needed more, but what I really needed was to figure out who I am without hurting you in the process. Hearing her say that, it hit me harder than I expected. We stood there, talking quietly in the corner of the room, like the world had shrunk down to just the two of us. She told me about her therapy sessions, how she'd come to realize that she'd been chasing something to fill a void that wasn't my fault. I told her about my struggles to let go, about how Miranda was helping me move forward even if I was scared of being hurt again. Somehow, amidst the pain and the history between us, there was still something, a spark. But it wasn't enough to erase all the shit that had gone down between us. We both knew that. So what now? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. Is there any chance for us? I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time, I realized that maybe I didn't want to go back. There was too much hurt, too much damage. But I also knew I couldn't just cut her out of my life completely. Kate, I said, my voice soft but firm, I care about you. I always will. But I think we need to give each other space. I can't keep living in the past, and I think you need to figure out who you are without me. She nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. I understand, she said. I think you're right. I need to focus on me for a while. And just like that, we reached an unspoken agreement. We weren't going to try to fix what was broken, but maybe, just maybe, we could still be in each other's lives in some way. As friends. As people who shared something once, even if it's gone now. When I turned away from Kate and walked back to Miranda, I felt lighter, like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Miranda looked at me, her eyes searching mine, and for once, I didn't feel conflicted. As the party wound down, I took Miranda's hand and led her outside. The night was cool, the city lights glowing around us. For the first time in months, I felt something like hope. Are you okay? Miranda asked, her voice soft. Yeah, I said, squeezing her hand. I think I finally am. I knew there would still be challenges ahead. I knew Kate, and I would probably cross paths again, and there would be moments where the past would sting. But for now, I was ready to embrace whatever came next. With Miranda, with my career, with my life. And as we walked down the street, her laughter echoing in the night, I realized that maybe the future wasn't so scary after all. I was done being haunted by the ghosts of my past. From now on, I was choosing to move forward, one step at a time.